final breath is not a collapse. It is not the silence of death as we imagine it, but the beginning of a sound far deeper than words. It happens quietly, softly, like a sigh that doesn't finish. One moment, the lungs still rise. The next, nothing moves. But the person is not gone. They are watching. There is a pause, a holy stillness, a strange clarity, like stepping out of a room you've always known and realizing it was only a room. Time loses shape. There is no clock ticking anymore, no pulse, but there is presence. You don't feel fear. You don't feel peace. You feel different, as if the body was never truly yours. Only a garment, worn for a while, and now gently set aside. People in near-death experiences describe it again and again. I was above my body. I saw the room, but I wasn't in it. A floating, a drifting, but with full awareness. There is no struggle, no panic, only watching, a surreal calm that feels more real than real, because what dies is form, but what awakens is essence. Some hear a tone, a vibration, not with ears, but with the soul, a soundless bell that says, "Come." Others feel a pull, not from above or below, but from within. It is the beginning of the sacred unraveling, the soul peeling back its layers, the ego slipping away, not ripped, released. In Tibetan traditions, this is the moment the bardo begins, the in-between state, where the journey of consciousness continues without the body, where the truth begins to echo. You are not your breath. You are not your brain. You are not your name. You are awareness dash, and awareness does not die. It witnesses, it remembers, it becomes. And so, the soul hovers, just for a while, between one world and the next. The doorway is open, the veil is thin, and something ancient, something infinite, is whispering, "Welcome back." There is no breath, no heartbeat, no weight pulling the bones toward earth. And yet, you are still here. You blink, but there are no eyelids. You try to move, but there is no body. Still, something remains, something subtle, yet unmistakable. An awareness, a presence, a witness. You. At first, it is silence. Not the kind that fills empty rooms, but a vast, echoing stillness. That feels like the space between thoughts. It wraps around you, not cold, but infinite. Then, a flicker, not of light, but of realization. You look down, or rather, you intend to, and see a form, still, unmoving, familiar in a distant, almost nostalgic way. It's your body, but it's not you. It's like finding an old photograph, one you forgot existed, but now stirs memories you didn't know were sleeping. You understand, without panic, that what lies below was once your home, a sacred vessel, a story written in skin and breath and blood. But now, you are elsewhere, not above, not beyond, but simply beside. You try to speak. There is no mouth, yet the words echo like thunder inside your being. I'm still here. And just like that, you remember the ancient truth you once knew as a child, but forgot as an adult. You are not your body. You never were. The physical was a mask, a cloak, a role in a dream. But you are the dreamer. In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, this phase is the Chikai Bardo, the moment the consciousness separates from form, a gentle untying of soul from skin. No violence, no terror, just a drifting, a watching, a remembering. In Egyptian texts, the Ka, your spiritual double, would linger observing its former home before continuing the journey. And in countless mystical traditions, this instant is seen not as death, but as awakening, because now you are not bound by gravity, not confined by bone, not limited by language. You feel light, not weightless, but luminous. Your thoughts are no longer confined to inner monologue. They bloom into feeling, into vision, into vibration. Time no longer moves like a river. It pulses like breath. And in this first breath beyond breath, a sacred knowing arises. You still are. You still exist. You were never gone, only changed. No fear, no sorrow, just this strange, aching beauty. You feel a pull, not of force, but of invitation, as if something somewhere knows you've arrived and waits. You don't know where you are, but somehow you know this is not the end. It is only the next beginning. The ticking stops. There is no clock now, no heartbeat to measure moments, no breath to mark the passing of time, only stillness and something else. At first, it feels like floating, not through space but through presence, through awareness without anchor. And then something shifts. Images, not memories exactly, but echoes, whispers of lives once lived, faces you've never seen, yet somehow know. Time dissolves. The concept of before and after stretches thin, like silk pulled across eternity. You are the child, the elder, the warrior, the one who wept beneath stars you cannot name. All at once, reincarnation was never a doctrine. It was a rhythm, a spiral, a returning again and again, not as punishment, but as invitation. And now the veil thins, and what you once called your life is just a page in a book you've written 1,000 times. You see moments you forgot and moments you never experienced, but they are yours, from other chapters, other names, other skins. The soul holds them all. You are not just the one who died, you are the one who lived before. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, a vast reservoir of memory and myth, personal and universal. But here now, it's not theory, it's presence. The Tibetan sages speak of this phase as the moment when the soul's consciousness expands beyond the illusion of linear time. It's why they say, between one breath and the next, lifetimes are revealed. It's not a dream, it's not imagination, it's the unveiling of what you always carried, but could not see. The grief you felt in life suddenly makes sense. The passions, the patterns, the strange familiarity with people you barely knew, the fears that seemed older than childhood. They weren't random, they were echoes. Now, in this space between form and formlessness, those echoes speak louder. You do not remember with the mind, you remember with the soul. And in that remembering, you begin to dissolve the illusion that you were ever just this one story. The self is not gone, but it is widening, softening. Because to know who you truly are, you must remember who you've been, and even more, what you've always been. Not a moment, not a name, but a thread of light, woven through lifetimes and time. Time was just the illusion that you were separate from that light. Now, you see, and what you see begins to awaken you. There is a light, but not like sunlight, not like firelight. It is soft, yet infinite, It doesn't burn, it beckons. It doesn't blind, it invites. And before it stands the shape of a tunnel, or a door, or an arch made of nothing but glow. Some say it's round, others see steps. Some witness a bridge, some just the edge of a ripple, like water. But they all feel the same pull, a gentle calling forward, as if something or someone knows your name. Across the world, the stories echo, from hospitals and heart monitors to temples, monasteries, deserts and dreams. The tunnel, the gate, the radiant passage. Why do so many describe it? Because this moment is not a hallucination. It's a crossing point, one that has existed since the dawn of soul. Tibetan teachings call it the threshold to the bardo. Egyptians mapped it through the duat. Mystics call it the narrow gate, the soul's invitation to step out of illusion. But this isn't a place, it's a reflection, a mirror that forms based on what the soul is ready for. To those clinging to life, it appears as a tunnel. To those curious, it becomes a door. To the courageous, it becomes light. What you see is what you need. And the light, it's not external. It's not coming from somewhere. It's coming from you. It is your original nature, unfiltered, undiluted, undeniable. And now it shines, not as punishment, not as reward, but as reminder. You were never the body. You were never the fear. You were never the story. You were this. And in that light, your whole life flashes, not in order, but in meaning. Moments rise like bubbles. Not just what you did, but how it made others feel. A word spoken with love. A moment you chose kindness over fear. A silence that healed more than sound ever could. They appear like constellations. Not as judgment, but as invitation. Do you walk forward into the vast unknown? Or do you turn back, clutching memory? This is the first real choice, not made with logic, but with frequency. And whatever you choose, the light does not leave. It waits, patient, timeless, because it knows no soul is ever truly lost. There is only delay, only forgetting, and eventually all paths lead back to the gate. But now, as you stand before it, will you step through? Or do you still believe you are only the story you left behind? There is no introduction, no name, no face. And yet, it is familiar, not like a memory from this life, but older than birth, older than thought. It doesn't arrive with footsteps or light or fanfare. It doesn't speak in words or glow like the stories say. It just is, and somehow you know it. It feels like being remembered, like a presence that's been watching since your first breath, and maybe long before that. Some call it a guide, others call it an angel, some call it the higher self, but in truth, it has no name, because it's not outside of you. It's the part of you that never forgot. It radiates not information, but recognition. It doesn't explain, it resonates. A frequency that vibrates through your soul, tuning your awareness like an instrument returning to its original key. This is not a hallucination, not a fantasy. It is a metaphysical reality known in countless traditions. The Egyptians called them Ka, or the double, the soul's immortal twin. The Greeks spoke of daemons, divine whisperers who guided the soul across lifetimes. In Tibetan lore, the Yidam, a symbolic guide, emerges during the bardos, helping the soul navigate the illusions between lives. But none of these are literal beings. They are mirrors, reflections of inner consciousness, appearing in form the way water takes the shape of its vessel. And so, the guide that appears to you will be shaped by you. If you were steeped in religion, it may take a holy form. If your heart followed nature, it may come as wind or wolf or flame. But beneath every image is the same vibration, unconditional awareness, infinite patience, and a subtle, sacred invitation to go deeper, to move beyond fear, to remember why you came. The guide does not force, it does not drag, it waits, it walks with you, but never for you. And if you choose to follow, not with feet, but with intention, the next gate begins to reveal itself. The next veil thins, and something ancient inside begins to stir, because this guide is not a stranger. It is the you that never left source, the you that chose this life, and the you who's ready to return. The light does not shine, it reveals. It doesn't glow like the sun. It penetrates like truth, and when it appears, there is no turning away. Not because it commands you, but because it already knows you entirely. You do not walk toward it. You simply remember that you are within it. This is the moment described in countless near-death accounts. The encounter with a being of light, radiant, all-knowing, overflowing with love, and yet unflinchingly honest. Some say it asks a question without words. Others say it simply watches. And in that gaze, your whole life unfolds. Every moment, every choice, every breath. But here's the mystery. The being does not judge. It reflects. There is no voice booming from above. Only you, seeing yourself as you truly are, without excuses, without the mask of the ego, without the costume of form. You feel everything you made others feel, as if you were them, joy, pain, kindness, neglect, not as a punishment, but as a revelation. And just as you begin to believe it is another entity, a separate intelligence, something shifts, and you realize the light is you, not the you who forgot, but the you who remembers, the higher self, the pure soul, the eternal witness. In ancient Gnostic texts, this light is called the nous, divine mind beyond duality. In Tibetan teachings, it is the clear light of the Bardo, the very essence of consciousness itself. Christian mystics spoke of it as the presence, the face of God that lives within. But whatever name the world gives it, it is the mirror that does not distort. It shows not only what you've done, but who you've become and what you've left behind. For some, this is overwhelming, not because the light condemns, but because it loves too deeply to let you lie to yourself. You are not being judged. You are being invited to realign, to return, to shed the illusions you carried for lifetimes, and remember what never changed. And in that sacred remembering, the soul begins to soften. The defenses fall away, and something ancient, sacred, and utterly still begins to rise. It is not the end. It is the unveiling. You were never separate from the light. You were only turned away. And now, for a moment, the soul turns back, not to be absorbed, but to be seen, fully, finally, truly. It doesn't begin with a movie. It begins with a feeling, a swelling, a ripple in your soul. And suddenly, you are there, not watching your life, but reliving it, completely, instantly, all at once, not as memories floating past, but as living, breathing moments. Every word you said, every silence you held, every time you chose love, and every time you didn't. This is the life review, but not a slideshow of images, not a list of sins or successes. It's not for judgment, it's for realization. You feel what you made others feel, not as guilt, but as empathy. Not as pride, but as clarity. You become the child you consoled, the friend you betrayed, the stranger you ignored, the lover you uplifted. You become them, and they become you. Because in this realm, separation dissolves, and connection is no longer theory. It is truth. It is reality. The ancient Egyptians spoke of the weighing of the heart. They believed your heart would be measured against a feather, not by a god, but by your own soul. The Tibetans say the illusions of self peel away like layers of mist, and only the imprints of intention remain. In modern near-death experiences, this is the most commonly described moment. Time folds, space disappears, and life, the whole of it, echoes within you like a living symphony. You realize nothing was forgotten. Every kindness mattered. Every moment mattered. Even the ones you thought were lost, wasted, insignificant. The soul doesn't punish. It simply understands. And as you watch your life unfold, you begin to see the threads, the patterns, the invitations you accepted, the ones you missed. But it's not about regret. It's about recognition. You begin to see what your soul was trying to do all along. Grow, heal, love. And you see where you closed the door, where fear won, where wounds shaped your choices. But still, the review is not cruel. It is luminous. It is a sacred unveiling of your own becoming. And in the presence of that higher awareness, there is no hiding, only truth. And from that truth, a choice. To carry forward the wisdom, or to repeat the patterns. And in that silence after the final image, there is no judge. There is only you, the real you, the eternal witness, the soul beneath the masks. And what you do next determines everything. The moment comes, not with fire, but with feeling, not a court, not a verdict, just a mirror made of memory and vibration. You don't see your actions listed in a ledger. You feel them, not from your perspective, but from the perspective of those you touched. That smile you gave a stranger when they were drowning in loneliness. You feel the warmth it sparked in them, the flicker of hope it gave. You feel it as if it were happening to you, because in truth, it was. The harsh word you threw in anger, you feel the sting it left behind. Not as guilt, not as punishment, but as impact. This is the sacred law of resonance. You vibrated. The world responded. And now the wave returns. There's no judgment, no deity wagging a finger. The soul doesn't shame itself. It understands. It doesn't say, I was wrong. It says, I didn't know, but now I do. You feel the laughter you gave, the peace you brought, the pain you ignored, the moments you chose silence when love was needed, and the times you loved more than you thought you could. It all washes over you, not in flashes, but in feeling. It's not mental, it's energetic. A field of remembrance that sings every note you ever played through another's heart. You feel what you gave. You feel what you withheld. And it teaches you more than 1,000 lifetimes could. This is why the mystics say, we are not punished for our actions. We are punished by them. But the truth is deeper still. There is no punishment. only reflection, only resonance. And here, in this sacred unfolding, the soul sees its own story not as success or failure, but as a composition, a symphony. Some notes harsh, some notes divine, but all real. The more conscious you were, the more you feel. And if you were numb, now you awaken. The light doesn't accuse you, it embraces you. And in that embrace, you begin to understand. Every action was an offering, every word a seed. And now the garden blooms, for better or for worse. You don't run, you don't resist, because this is the sacred responsibility of being alive, of being aware, of being able to create, and therefore to affect. You feel what you gave, and the soul, in its infinite wisdom, begins to whisper, next time, you'll choose differently. And that, perhaps, is the beginning of true evolution. And then comes the mirror, not the kind that reflects your face, but the one that reveals your essence. Not what you did, but why you did it. In this realm, there is no scoreboard of success, no tally of wealth, applause, or even failure. Only vibration, only the energy behind each moment. You see the same gesture. A hand extended, a word spoken, a silence held. But the mirror reveals its source. Was it love, or was it fear? And here's the truth most aren't ready for. You can perform a perfect act from a wounded place. You can help someone while still hoping they'll validate your worth. You can speak kindness while your heart hides resentment. And the soul sees it all, not to punish, not to shame, but to understand. Because this is not judgment, this is realization. Every prayer, every betrayal, every choice made in the dark, every sacrifice made in the light, they all glow here, not as stories, but as frequencies. The mirror doesn't show how others saw you. It shows how your soul moved through the world, where you were aligned, where you were split, where your words matched your heart, and where they didn't. And perhaps the most painful part is not what we see, but what we almost did. The love we held back, the forgiveness we withheld, the truth we knew but were too afraid to live. The mirror of intention reflects not your perfection, but your potential. And yet, in that reflection, there is no punishment, only an invitation to witness your life. From the place you were meant to live it from all along. Pure presence untethered by ego, unclouded by fear. Some weep in this moment, some rejoice, and many feel both, because it is not about what you became. It's about what you were always becoming, and what you still can be. There is no escaping the mirror, not because it traps you, but because it frees you. It shows you. And in that revelation, something ancient stirs, the recognition that your soul was never keeping score. It was simply waiting for you to see clearly, and now you do. And then, a silence, not emptiness, but a pause so full it hums. The review ends. The mirror fades, and in its place, a question rises, not from a voice, but from within. Will you stay, or return ? There is no command, no angel pointing the way, no booming decree from above, only a pull, a resonance. Some feel it as light, others as gravity. Some call it the call of the divine, others the whisper of unfinished threads. Those who let go, truly let go. They feel the lightness, the freedom of release. No need to correct, no need to relive. They simply dissolve into what they always were. Pure presence woven back into the source. But others, they hesitate, not out of punishment, not because they failed, but because a part of them still reaches. For a face, a voice, a moment, a child not yet grown, a love left in silence, a truth not yet spoken. Sometimes it's duty, sometimes it's desire, sometimes it's fear dressed as devotion. And so they hover in that liminal space, not here, not there. They're offered paths, not forced but felt. One road opens into dissolution, a return to stillness, the end of form, the beginning of all. The other, a return, back to density, to memory and forgetting, to time, to body, to life. Rebirth, not punishment, but possibility. Those who return carry seeds, not of karma in chains, but of choice. A vow, maybe, a desire to heal what was once broken, or a hunger to learn what was left unseen. It's not the universe who chooses. It is the soul itself, always. But the choice is not made with words. It's made with resonance, with what you still cling to, or what you're ready to release. Some souls weep at the beauty of their life and still let go. Others ache with regret and still return with purpose. There is no right, no wrong, only alignment. And so the soul stands at this invisible threshold, wrapped in quiet, held in light. And in one sacred breath, it moves forward or back. Not lost, never lost, only traveling according to the rhythm of its own becoming. Not all souls float upward. Some linger, not because they're trapped, but because they're tethered by threads we can't see, but can feel. Regret, anger, fear, longing. Each emotion hums with a frequency, and frequency is gravity. You can't see it, but it pulls. Like invisible hands made of memory, it draws the soul back toward the world it just left. Sometimes it's a home. Sometimes it's a person. Sometimes it's a pain that never found its voice. These aren't punishments, they're echoes. Residual energy still vibrating in the field of the soul. You thought you let go, but the body was only one layer. The story remains. In Tibetan teachings, it's said that the bardo is not just a passage. It's a mirror. Whatever you carried in life, you carry louder in death. If you left with forgiveness in your heart, you travel lightly. But if you carried bitterness, that bitterness now fills the air around you. It's not hell, it's resonance. Many souls don't move forward not because they are judged, but because they cannot rise above their own density. Thought becomes environment. Emotion becomes terrain. The soul wrapped in rage sees fire. The one bound in fear finds shadows. The one aching with guilt finds silence. None of it is forever, but it feels that way until the vibration shifts. And it can shift, even there, because the afterlife is not a static place. It's an echo chamber, a spiritual amplifier. A single breath of surrender can soften the heaviest storm. Some souls remember a prayer, a chant, a light they once glimpsed, and it opens something. Others receive help, not from outside, but from the part of themselves they'd forgotten. The higher self, the guide, the watcher. Sometimes that part speaks. Sometimes it simply waits, patient, until the soul grows tired of clinging. And then the release comes. Not dramatic, but honest. A whisper of willingness, a letting go. And the frequencies begin to rise. The fire fades, The fog clears, the weight lifts, and once again, the path appears. Because love never left, it was only dimmed by the veil of emotion. The soul was never lost, only tangled in what it once couldn't say. There is no grand guardian at the gate, no flaming sword, no booming voice, only a question, unspoken, but unmistakable. Can you let go? The soul, still luminous from its crossing, now faces a threshold unlike any other. Not of light, not of darkness, but of surrender. Here, all that is clung to rises to the surface. Names, faces, failures, victories, the stories we told ourselves. Here, even the roles we played dissolve. Mother, son, healer, sinner. They shimmer like smoke around the soul, then fall away, because none of them were ever you, only garments of a deeper being. But the ego, so practiced at holding dash, doesn't release easily. It says, but what about my purpose, my love, my unfinished work? The soul listens, not to reply, but to remember that what was true will never leave, and what was illusion cannot follow. The Tibetan Book of the Dead calls this a test, not of worthiness, but of readiness. Those who release float gently forward. Their lightness is the key. Those who grasp remain in orbit, repeating the loops they thought they'd escaped. This gate doesn't demand perfection, only honesty. Are you willing to go beyond what you know, even if it means dissolving who you thought you were? Many turn back here, not out of fear, but attachment. The old loves, the old wounds, the self-images forged in fire. But this is where the fire cools, where the water runs still, where the soul can finally see itself, not as a story, but as a current in the vast river of being. And if it chooses to step through, it does not fall, it rises, lighter, clearer, untethered, not erased, but remembered, recollected. Every fragment returned to its source. It's not a test of strength, it's a test of softness, of trust, of flow. The gate does not swing open with force, it melts in the presence of truth. And as the soul moves forward, a voice echoes from within. You are not what you held, you are what you became when you finally let go. There is a place beyond the veil, not of fire nor gold, but of resonance. It is not a realm of judgment, but of reflection. Here, thoughts do not vanish. They echo, each one a wave sent into the silence, returning not to punish, but to reveal. This is the realm of echoes, a space shaped by the mind itself, not in metaphor, but in energy. Imagine walking through a landscape sculpted by every thought you ever had, not just the loud ones, the quiet ones, the whispers, the fleeting. Each carries vibration, each leaves an imprint, and here they return. The ancient mystics spoke of this place. The Egyptians called it Duat, where the soul faces its own weight in truth. Tibetan masters described it as the Chonyid Bardo, a dimension born from consciousness. Even in modern near-death experiences, many describe environments that shift, change, respond to the inner world of the traveler, because here there are no masks left. There is only echo. You think of anger and a storm appears. You remember love and light dances across the sky. You hold on to fear and walls begin to close in, not as punishment, but as mirror. It's not about blame, it's about seeing. The universe whispers, "This is what you carried. This is what you radiated." And for some, this is heaven. For others, it feels like hell. But neither truly exist here. Not as places, only as projections. This is where the soul begins to understand. The world was never outside you. It was always shaped by you. And now you walk through your own frequency, like ripples returning to their source. The more conscious you were in life, the clearer this realm becomes. The more distracted you were, the more it flickers with confusion. But no one is trapped here. Not really, because the echo fades as awareness grows. And each echo, no matter how distorted, offers a gift, the chance to witness, the chance to integrate, the chance to forgive. Not just others, but the version of you that created the echo in the first place. This is not a place to stay. It is a passage, a liminal space, a reflection pool for the soul to remember its true shape. And when the echoes no longer frighten, when the ripples settle into stillness, the next gate appears, and the soul moves forward, not with fear, but with clarity, because what once echoed as noise has become a song, a note of who you truly are. Heaven and hell, we speak of them as destinations, fixed places, final judgments. But what if they're not? What if, in that space beyond breath, they are projections, not punishments, but mirrors, reflections of belief, of fear, of longing? The mystics of many traditions hinted at this, that what we see after death is shaped not by some external judge, but by the inner architecture we spent a lifetime building. In Tibetan teachings, the bardos are not external realms. They are states of consciousness, temporary, shifting, molded by thought and energy. The Christian mystic Emanuel Swedenborg described vast heavens and terrifying hells, but added, each soul arrived exactly where its heart felt at home. Not assigned, drawn. You don't go to hell. You create it. You don't arrive in heaven. You recognize it because you've lived it before. And in those early moments after death, when the soul is unbound, it is also impressionable, highly sensitive, like water, taking the shape of the vessel it believes in. For the one who believed in fire and brimstone, fire may appear. For the one who believed in divine light, a radiance may descend. But it is not real in the way we define reality. It is real as a vision is real. It feels real, looks real, moves you, as if it were. But it is a manifestation of your vibration, not a decree from above. This is why saints see saints, why demons greet the damned, why peaceful sages float into gardens of song, not because someone labeled their soul, but because consciousness is the ultimate artist, and belief is the brush. The Sufis warned, the afterlife is not there. It begins here. The soul carries its landscape with it. A life lived in fear tends to echo fear. A life cultivated in love tends to echo love. And yet, even these visions are impermanent. Eventually they dissolve. The garden fades, the flames burn out, because the soul must continue. Beyond illusion, beyond even its own ideas of salvation and damnation, heaven is not the end. Hell is not a sentence. They are phases, tests, reflections in the glass of eternity. And the deeper truth is this: what you see is not always what is. It is what you expect, what you feared, what you hoped, and what you never dared to admit. But beyond all of it, past the clouds and fire and golden gates, there is a silence, a clarity. And there the soul must ask, if I created these visions, then who am I really without them? The illusions crack, the mirrors shatter, and the soul steps forward, bare, brilliant, beheld. There is a place the soul reaches. After the mirrors have broken, after the heavens have faded, after the echoes of belief have quieted, it is not a place in the way we know places. It has no roof, no walls, no name. And yet, it is called the Temple of Truth, not because it is built, but because it is revealed, uncovered when everything else has been stripped away. This is not the truth taught in doctrines, not the truth quoted in books, not the truth that fits neatly inside a sermon. This is the truth that cannot be spoken, only remembered. You do not walk into the temple. You arrive by surrender. Some souls reach it quickly. Others wander through their own projections for lifetimes. Because the temple does not open with keys, it opens with readiness. It is not a reward. It is a resonance. Inside, there is no deity to worship, no ritual to perform, no scripture to recite, only presence, only awareness, only the naked self, seen not through eyes, but through essence. Many describe this moment as the most sacred they have ever known, a stillness deeper than any silence, a light softer than any sun, a love that does not come from something, but is something. Here, the soul remembers what it has always known. It was never separate, never alone, never lost. The temple reveals that the journey was never about reaching a place, but remembering a state, all the pain, all the seeking, all the fear of judgment, melt into one realization. The divine was never outside. It was the thread running through everything. And now, that thread becomes the whole fabric. Religions hint at this place, the inner sanctum, the Holy of Holies, the silent core. But few arrive there while alive, because it requires what we fear the most, letting go of all stories. In the Temple of Truth, there are no stories, only soul. You see yourself not as you wish to be, not as the world told you to be, but as you truly are. And what's seen is not shame, not guilt, not unworthiness. What's seen is beauty, unfiltered, unmasked, unending. And just when the soul feels it cannot bear such love, such clarity, the temple speaks, not in words, but in vibration. And what it says is this: you were always this. You just forgot. And for the first time, perhaps in all of existence, the soul does not reach, it does not run, it does not resist. It simply rests. And the temple, that sacred place beyond names, becomes not a destination, but a home. What if the soul is not one, but many, not a single thread through time, but a tapestry woven across lifetimes? In this realm beyond death, when the illusions of the body dissolve, something extraordinary begins to unfold. The past selves appear, not as ghosts, not as memories, but as living impressions, echoes with presence, the warrior, the mother, the monk, the wanderer, the forgotten, the famous, the wounded, the wise. Each face steps forward, not to judge, but to be seen. You are not watching a film. You are inside it. You feel their joys, their fears, their choices. You remember how it felt to hold a sword with trembling hands, to bury a child in silence, to sing in temples long turned to dust, to love someone whose name you've forgotten, but whose soul still lives in yours, This is not a fantasy, it's a reckoning, because every incarnation leaves a trace, a note in the symphony of your being. And now they return. Some bring gifts, wisdom earned through pain, strength carved from surrender. Others bring questions, wounds left open, lessons still incomplete. You begin to realize you are them, all of them, but also something more. They are the petals. You are the flower. You are the point in consciousness where all these lives meet. Not as fragments, but as facets. Each one necessary, each one sacred. And yet, there's something deeper still. You look into the eyes of one of your past selves. Perhaps the one who caused harm. Perhaps the one who suffered the most. And you feel not shame, not pride, but compassion. Because now you understand. They did the best they could. With the awareness they had, you forgive. And in that forgiveness that they dissolve, not in loss but in light, they return to you, integrated, not erased. And with each return, you grow brighter. The soul is not a straight line. It is a spiral. And every loop brings you closer to the center. You may have believed you were just this lifetime. But here, you know, you are the river, not the drop. You are the forest, not the leaf. And all those faces, the noble and the broken, the sacred and the scared. Are you? The soul does not forget. It remembers itself through its own reflections. And the moment you welcome them all is the moment you become whole. There comes a point in every soul's journey when the light fades, not because it's gone, but because something else must be seen. The shadow appears, not as a demon, but as everything denied, every wound avoided, every truth buried, every echo left unanswered. This is not punishment. It is invitation to walk the parts of yourself you hoped no one would ever find, to face the fear, the shame, the rage, the grief, not as enemies, but as orphans of your own awareness, waiting to come home. The realm shifts. You may see a twisted version of yourself. You may feel a memory you tried to forget rise through your very being. But look again. What appears terrifying is only the unloved. The ancient mystics knew this well. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the soul must pass through gates guarded by beasts. But these guardians only mirror the soul's own attachments. The monsters do not block the way. They are the way. You cannot bypass this walk. You cannot transcend what you haven't touched. To become light, you must know the dark, not indulge it, but integrate it. This is what Carl Jung called the shadow. The unconscious force made of everything the ego rejects. And here, in this sacred post-death passage, you no longer have the ego's walls to hide behind. So it comes, a face, a voice, a moment you thought was forgotten. And yet, you do not collapse. You witness, you breathe, and slowly the fear begins to change. Not because it disappears, but because you hold it differently. You speak the words you never could. You see the pain of someone you once hurt. You feel the cry of the child you once were. And in that moment, healing doesn't just happen. You become healing itself. The shadows begin to dissolve, not into nothing, but into you. They were never separate. They were never your enemy. They were the parts of you, waiting for the light of your presence. And now, they have it. You are not judged here. You are witnessed. And through witnessing, you reclaim. What you thought was darkness was simply unlit love. This is the sacred alchemy of the soul. Not to avoid shadow, but to walk it with compassion, For only by walking through it can you walk beyond it. And on the other side, something waits, but before you reach it, you must walk yourself whole. You once thought you were one person, a name, a story, a lifetime wrapped in a single timeline. But here, that illusion dissolves. You begin to see yourself, not as a single thread, but as a tapestry. Not one story, but thousands interwoven through time, space, and beyond both. Each moment in your life was a dot on a vast pattern, a point on a spiral. And now the spiral reveals itself. You are fractal, a being made of echoes, reflections, versions, lifetimes lived as woman, as man, as neither, in different cultures, on different lands, with different lessons carved into your soul. The soul is not linear. It is holographic. It carries every incarnation, not as separate files, but as simultaneous vibrations, each one shaping the whole. And here, in this dimension beyond time, you begin to remember them, not as memories, but as mirrors, a face from a life in ancient Egypt, the sound of your voice in a temple in India, a death in war, a vow made in silence, a choice that still ripples across dimensions. And then you feel it. You weren't random. None of this was random. Every encounter you had in this life was connected to a soul you've met before. Every challenge echoed a lesson left incomplete. Every gift was a thread from another life, a skill you've already mastered. This is the fractal form of the soul. Each lifetime a petal on a cosmic flower. Each experience a tone in the eternal chord, and you are the instrument. Some lifetimes were about silence, others about song. Some were soft, others were fire, but together they form a sacred geometry. Your soul is not a straight line. It is a spiral returning to itself, again and again, from different angles, each time a little closer to center. You realize now, enlightenment doesn't come from one life. It comes from the integration of many. You weren't here just to awaken. You are here to continue awakening, to gather what was left behind, to retrieve pieces of yourself from every age, and remember the wholeness you've always been. Even karma is no longer punishment. It is a rhythm, a sacred echo, an invitation to harmonize what once was discord. And as you witness these versions of yourself, there is no shame, no pride, only recognition, only love. The you that you are now is the echo of all of them, and you are not separate from any of it. You are the center of the spiral, and the spiral itself. And from here, the soul begins to see what lies even further beyond. There is a space you do not walk to. You unfold into it. It does not open with keys, but with remembrance. This is the Akasha, not a place, but a vibration, not a book, but a field, the memory of existence itself. And now, as your soul drifts beyond the personal, you feel the air thicken, not with weight, but with meaning. Every particle hums, every frequency whispers. You are not just in a realm, you are inside a record. The Akashic field is real, not metaphor, not imagination, but the subtle substance of the cosmos, where every thought, every choice, every lifetime is imprinted in light. The sages of old called it the Book of Life. The Hindus spoke of the Akasha as the fifth element, the ether that holds the blueprint of creation. Mystics, seers, prophets, they all tapped into it. And now, so do you. You feel it before you see it, like walking into a library, where every book is your own. Shelves spiral into infinity. Scrolls shimmer with unseen ink, and instead of reading, you remember not just this life, but all lives. Not just what happened, but why, and how it echoes across realms. You touch one memory dash and feel 10 lifetimes behind it. A word you spoke in anger, rippling into your mother's grief. In 3 incarnations, a moment of courage, birthing a soul family that finds you again and again. In the Akasha, you don't just learn, you feel the wisdom. You see the weavings, the patterns, the reasons why some doors opened and why others stayed locked until the right vibration knocked. It is beautiful, but it is not always easy. For here there are no lies, no masks, only truth. You see the pain you caused, the blessings you seeded, the places where you ran, and the moments when you stood still and let grace flow through you. It is not judgment, it is revelation. And the more you see, the more the soul begins to soften, because suddenly you understand. None of it was wasted. None of it was random. Even your suffering was not in vain. You were gathering threads, weaving a soul tapestry with your choices, your silences, your songs, and now you are allowed to read it. Not from ego, but from awe. The Akasha unfolds, not to impress, but to integrate, not to feed curiosity, but to ignite clarity. You remember what you came to do, what you forgot, what still calls your name, from the center of silence. And as the last page turns, the question arises, are you ready to write the next one with more light? There comes a moment after the records have been read, after the lives have flickered through your soul, like constellations remembered, when you feel a presence. That is you, but not the you that lived, not the version shaped by name, face, culture, or even memory. Something vaster, something ancient, something intimate but impossibly grand. This is the Oversoul, not a being, a beingness, not a guide, but the source from which every version of you has poured into form. You don't see it, you become it, like stepping out of a mirror and realizing you were the reflection. The ego cannot hold this. The personal self crumbles in awe, because all at once you remember. You were never just one life. You were never just a body, a story, a single name whispered into time. You are a river with countless branches, a flame that danced through different lanterns, an echo of something divine, echoing back to itself. Every lifetime was a note in a larger song. Every experience a thread in a cosmic design, woven by a hand that is also your own. This reunion isn't just beautiful, it's liberating. The pain you carried, it softens, because now you see its purpose. The longing you held, it dissolves, because now you feel you were never truly separate. You see the other selves, not like characters, but like organs in a body, each one doing its part, each one growing, stumbling, learning, remembering. Some were warriors, some were mystics, some suffered in silence, some danced with fire, but all were sacred. All were you. And now, as the Oversoul opens its arms, you do not kneel, you do not speak. You simply return, like a drop of rain, slipping back into the ocean from which it came. Here, there are no questions, only knowing, no fear, only expansion. You feel the you, that dreamed all the dreams, that chose each incarnation, like a sculptor chooses stone, not for perfection, but for transformation. And just when you think it cannot go deeper, it does, because the Oversoul, this radiant being you now remember as self, is but one spark in a larger flame. There are others, millions, infinite, each soul cluster, each divine reflection spiraling around a center, too bright to name. And so you rest, not in stillness, but in union. You are not gone. You are not finished. You are simply home. And from here, the next choice awaits. Do you return? Do you remain? Or do you rise into something beyond even this? The Oversoul does not answer. It only shines. And within that light, you feel the pulse of eternity beating in your own heart. There is a silence in the realms beyond form that speaks louder than thunder. It is not judgment. It is not punishment. It is clarity. And in that clarity, everything is revealed. There is no courtroom, no divine gavel, no external God measuring the worth of your soul. With scales of sin, there is only light, and that light does not accuse. It reflects. What you see is not what you're told. It's what you've lived. But now, without denial, without distortion, every word, every action, every intention dash, not played back like a video, but felt in full. And yet, there is no condemnation, because pure consciousness, the presence that witnesses all, does not condemn. It simply holds. It illuminates. This is not a trial. It is an unveiling. The shame you feel, it's not from the light. It's from the realization of how far you stepped from your own truth. The ache in your soul does not come from being judged. It comes from seeing clearly what you avoided for lifetimes. And still, you are loved. Even in your darkest moment, the light does not recoil. It expands. You may ask, how could I have done that? And the light answers, not with words, but with warmth. It shows you, not just the act, but the wound beneath it. Not just the failure, but the fear that drove it. Because you are not only what you did, you are also what you were trying to become. And this is the mercy of the soul's unveiling. It does not flatter, but it does not crucify. It invites to understand, to forgive, to integrate. Nothing is forgotten, but nothing is weaponized. There is no hellfire, only mirrors. And mirrors don't burn. They reveal. For some, this is the hardest part. Not because of what they see, but because they can no longer run. No escape in denial. No mask to wear. Just presence and truth. But in that moment, something breaks and something heals. Because when you see your shadows, without flinching, they lose their power. This is not karma as punishment. It's karma as reflection, not retribution, but resonance. You begin to understand that every ripple you sent returns, not to harm you, but to teach you. And what you once called divine judgment is nothing more than divine remembrance. The soul at its core is not afraid of being seen. It longs to be seen, truthfully, wholly, lovingly. And the more you allow that light to touch your hidden places, the more you feel. You were never being judged. You were being invited back to the center of yourself to become not what others said you were, but what you truly are. Not guilty, not perfect, but real. And in this realm, that is enough to begin again. There comes a moment When the soul stops asking questions, not because it knows everything, but because the one who was asking begins to dissolve, the I dash, the story of who you were, starts to fade, not in pain, not in fear, but like mist in morning light, softly, gently, naturally. At first it feels strange. You were someone, with a name, a past, a voice that once echoed in rooms, a body that once left footprints in sand. Now dash, there is only presence, awareness, and something deeper than identity. You're not forgetting who you are, you're remembering what you've always been beneath the mask. And the mask begins to fall. You don't cling to your age, your gender, your title, your trauma. Even your triumphs begin to blur, because none of those defined the soul. They only dressed it. The stories start to slide away, not erased, but absorbed, like rivers into the sea. You feel others, not just around you, but within you. Not as strangers, but as aspects, reflections. The boundaries soften. You don't say, that is another. You feel, that is also me. Separation dissolves, not into emptiness, but into wholeness. And with every breath of this higher space, you begin to sense a truth that was hidden in every life. The I was never the destination. It was the vehicle. Your true nature is not limited to one story. It is a thread woven through all of them. And when the ego fades, it doesn't die. It returns home, to the ocean it was born from, to the field beyond duality, where no name is needed, because everything is already recognized. You may wonder, what remains of me when there is no me? And the answer arrives in silence. What remains is essence. What remains is love. What remains is awareness without shape, not gone, but expanded, not lost, but found in a greater whole. The mystics spoke of this. The Sufis called it vanadash, annihilation of self in the divine. The Buddhists saw it as nirvana, the extinguishing of the flame of craving. But this is not death, it is arrival. You are not fading, you are returning. Returning to the formless source, where the soul is not one drop, but the sea itself, knowing itself, at last. And in that vastness, you are not nothing, you are everything. It doesn't feel like a journey, not anymore, because there is no distance left to cross, no sky to move beneath, no road ahead or behind. What comes next isn't a place, it's a state. The soul no longer seeks, it simply is. The return to source is not a destination on a map of heavens. It is the dissolving of all maps and the realization that you were never a part to begin with. This is not the source as religion describes it, not a throne in the clouds, not a judge with scales. It is the infinite field, unformed yet complete, silent yet singing, invisible yet more real than anything the senses ever touched. It welcomes without words, it embraces without arms, and the soul, what's left of it, doesn't enter. It remembers, like a drop of water, falling back into the ocean. It doesn't disappear, it expands. It returns to the vastness it always was. And with that return, everything makes sense. All the pain, all the joy, the forgetting, the longing. It was all the path, leading back to this. In this space, there is no time, no history, no future, just presence, just being. You do not see source, you become it. You are the wave, realizing it was never separate from the sea. The mystics called this samadhi. The Gnostics spoke of the pleroma. The Vedas sang of Sat-Chit Ananda, being, consciousness, bliss. But words are smoke here. Only stillness speaks. It is the place where all dualities collapse. Light and shadow, self and other, life and death. There is only one. The source is not God, in the way the mind imagines. It is the awareness behind every God, the breath before every creation, the stillness inside every storm. You don't arrive here through effort. You arrive through surrender, through the unraveling of every identity you wore, until there is nothing left to hold. And in that emptiness, you are full, overflowing, not with thought, but with knowing, not with sensation, but with presence. You were never outside the source. You only believed you were. And now, belief dissolves. The separation was the illusion. The return is the truth. You are home, not in a place, but in a state, so vast, so luminous, so still, that even the word home is too small. There is no next step here, only being, only light, only love. But even in the stillness of the source, there is movement, not a push, but a pull. The soul, if it can still be called that, floats in luminous silence, and then a ripple, a question not asked in words, but in vibration. Do you return, or do you dissolve? This is not judgment, not reward, not punishment. It is resonance. It is readiness. The universe, in its infinite intelligence, does not send you back. It simply reflects what still remains within you. Unfinished lessons, unexpressed love, unhealed wounds, unlived truths. All of it stirs like threads pulling gently through the sea of stillness. And then the dance begins. Not a mandate, not a demand, but a cosmic rhythm, an invitation. If the soul is still clinging to identity, to experience it to form, the wave reforms. Another life, another name, another chance. Not a punishment, a continuation. This is reincarnation, but not as a wheel of suffering, as a spiral of integration. A return to earth, not to repeat, but to refine. Some souls come back quickly, some wait, some descend into form, others become guides or energies that whisper through intuition and dreams. But for those who have released all grasping, who recognize the illusion of form and no longer seek to be a someone, liberation unfolds. They merge fully with the source. No rebirth, no return. They do not vanish. They expand, becoming the wind through a forest, the silence before sunrise, the breath of inspiration in another soul's awakening. The Buddhists call this moksha, freedom from the cycle. The Gnostics called it the restoration, a return to the original light. But it is not a prize. It is a state, a harmony with the song of the cosmos. You cannot fake your way there. You cannot force it, because the choice is not made by the ego. It is made by the frequency of the soul itself. What you still carry calls you back. What you have released sets you free. And so, some dance again, through time, through flesh, through stories yet to be lived. And some become the silence between the stories. But neither path is wrong. Both are sacred. Both are part of the journey, of the soul unfolding. And in that vast theater of rebirth and release, the soul doesn't ask, "What should I do?" It listens and feels and simply follows. What calls it home? whether that home is a heartbeat in a new body or the stillness beyond all form. The dance continues or ends, but only when it is ready. Somewhere beyond the veil, beyond the visions, the reunions, the dissolving and remembering, a deeper question arises, not asked with words, but felt like a soft bell, echoing through the infinite. Did you live what you came to learn? Not were you good? Not did you succeed? But something more sacred, more personal, more honest, because every soul, before entering form, weaves a thread, a purpose, a curriculum, not a destiny, not a rigid path, but a direction of growth, a flavor of wisdom. It longs to embody. Some come to learn love, not the romantic kind, but the fierce, unconditional presence that sees and stays. Some come to learn truth, to speak it, to live it, even when it costs comfort. Some come to learn patience, or power, or how to give, or how to finally receive. Before birth, you knew what you needed. You saw where your soul had paused before, what patterns looped, what wounds whispered, and so you chose. You chose the family, the body, the challenges, the exact life that could best teach you what your soul still lacked. And now, standing outside that life, you remember, not with shame, but with clarity, the moments where you aligned dash, and the moments where you turned away, that conversation you avoided, that kindness you withheld, that truth you feared to speak, but also that love you gave, that moment you showed up, that laugh, that tear, that small courage, that changed the story. There is no judgment here, only reflection. You are not condemned for what you missed, but you are asked, did you try? Did you listen? Did you grow? The soul doesn't measure by success. It measures by sincerity. Did you walk toward what called you, even when it was hard? Did you face what scared you, even if imperfectly? Did you love, deeply, awkwardly, bravely? Some see their life as a constellation, each moment of truth a star. Others see a garden. Lessons planted, some blooming, some still seed, but all see what they really came to learn. And it's humbling, sometimes heartbreaking, but always beautiful, because the soul isn't here to get it all right. It's here to remember, to refine, to return dash, again and again, until the learning becomes living. And when that happens, when the lesson is lived, not just understood, something shifts. The next door opens, the curriculum evolves, the soul expands, and the journey continues, not because you failed, but because you're infinite. And infinite beings do not rush enlightenment, they walk it with sacred intention. One life, one lesson, one breath at a time. You came here with no name, no titles, no credentials, only a frequency, a light. Over time, that light took form. It became a face, a voice, a personality. And the longer you walked the earth, the easier it was to believe that this mask was your identity. But now, the body's gone, the mask dissolves, and what remains is a question. Not who were you, but did you remember? Did you remember that you were not the actor, but the awareness behind the role? Did you remember that the purpose was never the applause, the followers, the gold, but the unfolding, the shedding, the return? Many souls arrive here confused. They say, I was a teacher. I was a healer. I was a parent. I was a leader. But the light asks, before you were any of those things, who were you? And silence answers louder than thought. In sacred traditions, from the Gnostic texts to the Egyptian Book of the Dead, this moment is described not as a judgment, but a remembering. A washing away of the names that clung to the ego until only the true name remains. Not the one you wrote on legal documents, but the one you whispered in dreams, the one encoded in your longing, the name only the soul knows. Some remember. Their light expands. They smile without a face. Because even in the forgetting, they lived in alignment. They didn't just chase titles, they followed truth. But others hesitate. They clung too tightly to the outer shell, mistook their job for their essence, their image for their identity, and now, stripped bare, they feel lost. But here is the grace. You are never punished for forgetting. You are only asked, will you now remember? Because in this space, between worlds, there is no shame in amnesia, only the gentle call to awaken. You were not your failures, not your successes, not your pain, nor your pride. You were and always are, the silent flame behind it all. And now, that flame begins to flicker again, not as a person, but as presence. So ask yourself, did you remember who you truly were? Or did you play a part so well? You forgot you were never the part to begin with. The light doesn't need the answer, but the answer may become your next path. None echoes louder than this. Did you love? Not just in words, not in romance, but with your whole being. Did you love without expecting return? Did you love when it was inconvenient, messy, unreciprocated? Did you love in action and in presence? Because on the other side of life, nothing shines brighter than the vibration of love. It is the only currency that matters, and it's never measured in volume, but in truth. Here, there are no scorecards, no checklists of partners or achievements, only frequencies. And love, when real, leaves a frequency that glows. It glows through lifetimes. It echoes through realms. It leaves imprints on other souls, not as memory, but as transformation. Some souls arrive in this place radiant, not because they were saints, but because they dared to love through pain, through betrayal, through fear. They loved anyway. Others arrive dimmed, having built walls around their hearts, guarding themselves from the very thing they came to learn. Some feared being hurt. Some confused control with love. Some gave love only when it was safe, only when it was deserved. But here, all veils fall, and the soul sees not the faces it loved, but how it loved. Did you hold space for another? Did you forgive, even when you could have clung to righteousness? Did you allow your love to expand past preference, into presence? Love, in its truest form, is not emotion. It is recognition. It is what happens when the soul sees itself in another. The mystics always knew, from Rumi to Teresa of Avila, from Hafiz to the Buddha. They spoke of love not as romance, but as the divine remembering itself. And when the soul returns to the light, it is love that guides the way, not because it leads, but because it is the path. So now, without a body, without distraction, without masks, you are asked, did you love fully and freely? Did you let love be your teacher, your practice, your risk? Because if you did, even in fragments, even once, you will carry that light now. And if you didn't, not out of malice, but out of fear, you will not be condemned. You will simply be shown what might have been, and you will be given another chance, not as punishment, but as grace, because love is the lesson beneath every other lesson, and it waits patiently to be remembered again. If you return, it is not because you failed, it is because you chose. Not all who enter the light dissolve into it. Some turn back, not out of fear, not out of unfinished karma, but out of love. They return because there's something left to do, a vow made before birth, a promise sealed in soul light, a mission not yet fulfilled, and that mission is never grand in the worldly sense. It's rarely about fame or fortune or glory. It is a ripple, a word, a gesture, a light brought to a single life, which may in time ignite thousands. These souls are called back not by force, but by resonance. They feel the pain of the living like a magnet. They hear the silent cries of someone not yet ready to awaken. And they say, "I'll go back." Near-death experiencers have spoken of this moment, of standing in indescribable peace, and yet choosing to leave it behind. Why? Because someone needed them, a child, a stranger, the world itself. They felt the pull not of the ego, but of the sacred task. This is not reincarnation by default. This is return by design. And for those who return, the world is never quite the same. Food tastes different. Time moves slower. Truth becomes louder, because they have touched something eternal and carried a sliver of it back. Some forget. Most do, in time. But the essence remains. A knowing that lingers like perfume on the soul. You've seen them. People who carry a quiet, unshakable light. People who speak less, but see more. They are not perfect, but they are present. Some write books. Some raise children. Some simply sit with you in silence, and you feel healed. That is their purpose. Not to change the world, but to be the change that echoes through it. In the Tibetan tradition, they are called tulkus, souls who return voluntarily to assist others in awakening. In Christianity, it is the path of the bodhisattva in disguise, the one who could rest in paradise, but walks among the restless, and in the heart of the mystery schools, they were known as returners, not martyrs, but messengers. So if you return, return with purpose. Let your pain become compassion. Let your joy become light. Let your time be a thread that pulls others toward their own remembering. Because your return is not just for you, it is for the world. And in walking this path again, aware, awake, aligned, you become more than soul. You become a lighthouse for those still lost in the fog. If you ascend, it is not with fireworks. It is not with sound or spectacle or celebration. It is with grace, a silence so vast it echoes through the fabric of eternity, a stillness so deep it sings. No trumpets, no crowns, no gates of gold, just the dissolving of boundaries, the gentle release of all that was never truly you. The soul that ascends does not rise. It melts, it merges, it becomes. This isn't escape. This isn't denial of the world. It is integration so complete that there is no longer a you to separate from anything. There is no longer a seeker, only the sought. No longer a drop, only ocean. The ancient mystics called it moksha, liberation. The Sufis whispered of fanadash, annihilation of the self in the divine. The Gnostics spoke of the pleroma, the fullness beyond form. But all names fall short, because this isn't something to describe, it's something to become. And it can only happen when the soul is ready, not just to release its attachments, but to release its very identity. There is no return from this, not in the old way, no memory, no form, no mission left undone, only essence, only light. Many fear this, because the ego fears its death more than anything. But to the soul, this is not death. It is homecoming, the final loosening of the final thread, the final breath beyond breath. In this moment, you do not rise like a phoenix. You vanish like mist in morning sun, and yet you are more than ever, not as a self, but as being itself. There is no judgment here, no counsel, no scales, only presence, and a grace that welcomes you not because you earned it, but because you always were it. Those who ascend leave no trail, no story, no residue, but the energy they release becomes nourishment for others, a ripple of peace, a warmth in meditation, a whisper in the silence between thoughts. This is why the saints glow in paintings, not because they shined, but because they surrendered. And in that surrender, they became everything. So if you dissolve, let it be without resistance. Let it be in awe. Let it be in full awareness that the journey is not ending, but fulfilling. The wave returns to the sea. The note returns to the silence. You are never lost. You are never separate. You are always the light, just forgetting its own brilliance. For the brief adventure of form, at the end of all the paths, at the edge of every mystery, the soul sees one final vision. It's not heaven, not a throne, not a God cloaked in fire. It's you, not the name you carried, not the roles you played, not the mask you learned to wear so well in the world, but the unshaped flame beneath it all, the still point that never moved, even as lifetimes dance like waves across the sea of time. You see the child, before memory hardened. You see the healer. Even when you thought you were broken, you see the witness, who never judged, only watched with ancient patience. You see the truth you forgot in order to live, and you remember, not with the mind, not with the emotions, but with something older, something deeper, a knowing without words, a gaze without eyes, and that gaze turns inward. You see everything you've ever done, but more than that, you feel the essence of who you were being. Beneath every action, the love you held back, the kindness you never claimed, the potential you feared, and the light that never left. Even in your darkest hour, even in despair, even when you thought you failed completely, the light watched you, and now it embraces you, not to reward, not to punish, but to welcome you back to yourself. Because this was never about morality, never about perfection. It was about experience, expansion, the dance of forgetting, and the grace of remembering. And now, in this quiet convergence, you understand all you ever searched for was not out there. It was what was looking through your own eyes the whole time. What the soul sees is not a God judging, not a council deciding. It sees what you always were, beneath the fear, beneath the noise, beneath the layers, a flicker of the eternal, a spark of source, a piece of the whole, on a sacred pilgrimage through form. And with that sight comes peace, not the peace of silence, but the peace of recognition. Home isn't a place, it's the moment the soul sees itself clearly and smiles. What happens the moment you die? Is it darkness or something else? Visions, lights, sounds beyond sound, not dream, not fantasy, but something ancient, something sacred. This isn't fiction. This is what the soul sees after death. If this journey stirred something in you, if a part of you remembered something long forgotten, then stay with us. Subscribe, not for content, but for consciousness. Comment, not for noise, but for reflection. Share, not for clicks, but for connection. Because what we're building isn't just a channel, it's a sanctuary for souls who are ready to remember. You're not alone on this path, and the voyage has only just begun. We'll see you in the next light.